he broke Coach Knight's record and gave me a story a little bit about how he would come off the road and be in film sessions at 5 in the morning. So I kind of wanted to not ask you that story again, but I want to ask you, maybe you have an anecdote about what he taught you about strategy on the bench or motivating players on the bench, or any story about what he was like on the bench.
I just think, I think one of the biggest things I took from him is the theme of competing every day when you're running a program. And as much in the off season with recruiting or in this day and time marketing your program, there was that constant theme of competing every day. And he's the ultimate competitor. Certainly to hit 1,000 wins is off the charts. I don't see anybody touching that thing. But he's done a great job of adapting, throughout different phases. And I'm really thankful that I had 8 years with him. I've learned, I draw on that experience every day.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you recall, like being on the bench with him, how he would motivate or how he would work strategy?
I think one of his greatest strengths is letting a team play. And certainly I've learned from that kind of theme of giving guys freedom to flow and play, and maybe the way to put it is, I think one of his great strengths is he doesn't overcoach, and I think that's really played out very, very well for the talent level that they've recruited there. I think he's a really good confidence giver in crunch time when maybe a team is hanging their head. And when a team needs a kick in the backside, he's really, really good at that too.
Okay. Which begs the question, and I don't want to overuse my time here, but do you remember an incident where he kicked some butt on the bench?
Hey, did you ask him about my 300th win? Did you call him and ask him what he learned from me about my 300th win and what he took from me and all those Final Fours that we went to when I was there? I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. What was your question again?
Just an example of him kicking backside on the bench.
Well, he's really an intense guy. I think he can really confront guys and can challenge them. Maybe the best word is he's great at challenging guys and probably challenging their manhood when needed.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, call him about my 300th, okay?
I will absolutely do that.
All right. Take care. Happy New Year.
Mike Barber.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to ask Virginia defensively. They had a couple, rough outings, but they seemed like they got back in form last night. What makes their defense so challenging?
Well, I think number one, they're in a great rhythm of experienced players. They have, these last 2 years with experience and the momentum they have. They have veteran guys playing their defense. And, one thing I think that's underrated in college basketball is playing together on defense. Whenever I say, hey, we really play together well, it means, God, they share the ball, they flow offensively, they know who they are. But playing together on defense is a result of experience, of doing it over and over. And this nucleus, they've got a few new faces, obviously, but this nucleus has played together on defense a lot, and they really know how to cover for each other and help each other. So it's and they really believe in how they play. It's won them a championship.
Thank you.
Do you have any follow-up questions? Okay, David Tia. David, are you still on?
Yes, I am. Hey,
Okay.
Mike.
David, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, sir. Just along those lines, you and Jim Larinaga and several of your colleagues in the league last year were very complimentary with the way Akeel Mitchell was able to defend for them, not only in the interior but also on ball screens. How have they replaced that role? Has it all been Atkins? Has Gill stepped in there as well?
I think the both of them have done it. I think all of us in the league were hoping that would be more of a void than it has been. But Tony's done a really good job with the two that you mentioned, really covering for each other. And again, it's the ultimate team defense. I don't really think of it, that who's their stopper. They're kind of their stopper, those five that are out there. But I do think, Dave, the two of them have kind of picked up at the same level, which, is kind of hard to believe because Mitchell was off the charts.
Yeah, and then conversely, you're sitting there, you're leading the country in field goal percentage, you're second in Ken Palm's offensive efficiency ratings. I mean, how much do we attribute that to Jerrian's return, or is it Jackson's maturity playing into it there, a combination thereof?
Yeah, Dave, I think a combination of a lot of things, but there's no question Grant back is huge for us. And, as you can see, he's involved with just about everything we do offensively. He just is such a playmaker for us. I do think Jackson has learned to be a better playmaker playing with Grant through the summer and through this season. He's become more of an all-round guard. And then, I think Vastoria maybe is one of the underrated players in the league with how he produces and does things. And then we're getting stuff, inside with August too. So, and I'll go back to what I was talking about earlier. This group, because of the foreign tour, David, which was so important for our program after the year we had, they've played a lot together. We were able to play them a lot together. And I think offensively it showed itself early in the season because I got to coach them in July and August in Italy.
And then if I could just sneak in one more, you had down the stretch in Chapel Hill the other night some offensive hiccups.
Yep.
But yet you were able to maintain your resolve on the defensive end, especially on the last possession where you shadowed Page so well. How pleased were you with the defensive effort, especially late at Carolina?
I'm really thrilled with what we did down there, David, because we knew a run was coming, and on the road in this league, and especially in that building, and I've been in that building a lot more than my guys, to hold them off and defend like that at the end and really be alert, especially for Page, was key. We missed some free throws, we threw the ball away, but it's not going to be perfectly clean on the road in an atmosphere like that, and you look at how you can escape. When we've had to really lock down, we're better defensively than last year, which we had to be, and Jackson has helped us with that, with his ball pressure, starting with him pressuring the ball. But we're able to get key stops at crunch times. We've done it in close games, going back and really starting with the Michigan State game. That's kind of been a trait of ours, and I sure hope we can ride it here for another 2 months.
Thank you, sir.
See you soon.
Whitey Reed.
Yeah, hi. Hey, Coach. Last year's game against Virginia, obviously, it didn't go the way you guys wanted it to. I guess I was kind of wondering, have you noticed any kind of extra fire in your guys, maybe, or them talking about getting a little payback for last year?
Well, no, it's a great question. I talked to them in the locker room in Chapel Hill that they owned us. We had no answers for Virginia. It was like a JV versus the varsity. They put it on us twice. It's the one team in the league we weren't competitive with. Everybody else, as tough as last year was, we were very competitive. We had chances, but not these guys. And I think they all got together last night on their own at Pat Connaughton's place and watched the game, and they certainly remember the thumpings we took twice last year.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Hine.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Hey, Chris.
I want to take you back a few years to when you guys were in the NCAA tournament and Coach Bennett was still at Washington State. When you were initially looking at film of them getting ready for that game a few years ago, what were your initial impressions, and did you guys think you were in for as tough a game as you guys had back then?
Yeah, I mean, I think that team played just like these teams play for Virginia. They had an older, experienced team. They physically ground you up on offense with the tempo they want. They dictated the tempo, and they jammed it in defensively. And really, I mean, we had no answers for them that night either. So this system has really given us trouble between Washington State and the two games with Virginia. But I mean, I had the utmost respect for them. I thought because they were old and physical, I didn't think we were going to have an easy game, or I was very worried, and my worries came true in Denver.
So over the years, you've made you've been able to score on a lot of good defenses, but Coach Bennett, his defenses kind of had the upper hand on you guys. Is there any personal motivation on your part to go out there and try and solve his system?
Not really. I mean, I've been coaching too long to get into personal duels or head-to-head duels. I have the utmost respect for Tony. I think he's an unbelievable representative of our league, and he's like the next wave of great coaches, of the young guys coming up. He's got a heck of a system. He is disciplined with what he does, and they're starting to develop, a consistency in the league. I think it was only a matter of time when they hired him.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Is there anyone else on the line that has questions? Okay, we have media members here. We'll be taking questions from those who are here.
You talked a lot about preparing for Connecticut rebounding drills, preparing for Georgetown, familiar league opponents. What does it do now to having seen the pack line defense twice in your preparation to know, all right, this is the way we have to prepare to play against Virginia?
Yeah. And again, I think you can overanalyze that, but it's a defense that's kind of jammed in. We've played a little bit, some of it this year. Michigan State jams it like that too. You're going to have to move them around. You're going to have to make some shots over the top. They're going to get. That's the one thing they give up. We made 10 threes the other night. We're going to have to make some jump shots and to kind of just keep that thing, to make them respect that and maybe open the floor for some drives. But you can't just put your head down and go. And there's some teams we've been able to go against quickly. Not these guys. The other thing you'd like to do is get some run a little bit and get ahead of that thing, so you're not playing against their set defense all the time, because that's extremely taxing. It's a little bit like what you talk about with Syracuse. Can you get out and run a little bit so you're not playing against the zone for 55 of 64 possessions? And now to do that, we got to rebound the ball, so there's your, or can we get it out and run on makes a little bit too, we're going to have to move. What we talk about with jammed-in defenses is you got to move them. You can't do something on the first side. You may not be able to do something on the second side, one reversal. But when you got a clean look, like the other night, you go step up and let it rip.
You've got two guys that are trending toward possible most improved player in the league. But how far has Justin Anderson come in that sense after last year?
Yeah, he's a great candidate for it. He gives them, their toughness, I think, all radiates first off of him. They got a lot of tough guys. But there is a confidence, and there is I'll make the big shot and make the big play about him that every team needs that's, going to get an NCAA bid or play for a league championship. You think about what he did at Miami. He's a fearless guy. He is a physical guy. He is big. He's a heck of a defender. My guess would be they would have him on Jaron.
You mentioned moving them around, but in a disciplined defense like that. But how much do you balance that first open look? Not taking too many open shots early in the clock. But.
Yeah, you got to be careful because the atmosphere will be crazy, and you want the atmosphere to help you and not make you play too fast, and that's always a fine line because I don't want us tight. You know, I mean, we gotta kind of go. So, I think this nucleus has learned a lot about what to do offensively, and how to adjust to defenses, and then how we can help them, through there. But when you got clean looks, I think it's my job over the next 2 days to step up and have fun and let it rip.
On the kind of the flip side of that, they move the ball very well, and you've maintained that you have very good first shot defense. It's sometimes defending the backboard, but is this the toughest task on first shot defense against this team?
Yeah, they really, they really screen you and move you, and you have to have defensive patience because the possessions are long. I think it takes a real mental toughness to play against them because nothing seems to be easy. You're having to grind on offense, you're having to grind on defense. I think that's where it's a great test for this group now, playing against a team like this, a style of play like this.
Mike, I believe you won 6 in a row at home against top 25 and 14 of the last 16, and you've always been very complimentary of your home crowd. I don't know that we see it as a dominant crowd from our perspective, but what has allowed you guys to have that kind of success? Even last year when you struggled, you beat Duke at home.
It's funny. My son, gets back periodically now that he's a football coach at Youngstown State, by the way. But go Penguins, and they're Under Armour. So we got we take care of everything. He's with Bo. But he said, you guys are interesting, Dad, because there's, you guys kind of have just played the same way at home, no matter if you've got 9,300 in there and the students going off, or you got empty seats and you're having to rev it up. I give our kids a lot of credit. I worry about that some nights, like, God, but they've just kind of played. I think we've been really confident and we've been able to get into a good rhythm offensively here. We've scored it here. We feel good about shooting it here. Of course, opponents always say they feel good about shooting it here too. But I think it's been overall, over the course of my tenure, an offensive confidence and flow that you're going to put enough points on the board to escape, even if your defense is waning.
This is like the ultimate, their defense against your offense this Saturday.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. It's a great matchup, and there's a great buzz about it, and rightfully so. And for us, we knew Virginia was going to be good. I'm really thrilled that we're in a position to make this a big game, and we've come such a long way from last year to put ourselves in a position. In the midst of that and our offense against the pack line, we got to keep guarding and pressuring the ball and taking away vision and doing the best we can on the backboard.
You used an expression with Coach Krzyzewski about being a confidence giver, and I know that I've written 100 times that that's what you are. Were you always that way, or was that something that he kind of taught you?
No, I think maybe that's a little bit more of me than him. And I think it starts with being a high school teacher and coach and coaching that age group, and teaching in the classroom, being a high school educator. I think, my feeling was that, to make kids feel better about themselves and to give them hope, even if they're having a hard time in your class or not playing well, and to give them confidence. And I think that's where my high school teaching, coaching experience really laid the groundwork for that, Tim.
You mentioned a while back that you weren't happy with the way Colson was practicing, and you guys have struggled on the backboards. I wondered has he done any more in practice in order for you to give him a shot in an area where you could use some help?
He has been better since the last time I talked to you. I think we've simplified his role a little bit when he's playing on the blue team, and that's helped him. And he's very much on my mind. Very much on my mind. He was on my mind the other night. We ended up not going to him, but I just grabbed him yesterday, and his attitude's been unbelievable. I don't know if we have a guy talking more at timeouts than him, talking to, like, keep your head up, we got to do this, really positive stuff. And it's hard, man. Now, he's gone 16 games now and not been part of it. That's why I still think there's going to be a story there because we need that. We're going to need that, and the frame of mind is so good.
Well, so how close is he? Is it this game, or is it maybe a couple games removed?
It's right around the corner. It's right around the corner. Could be Saturday, but I've tried to work. I will the next 2 days work them through on a white shirt a little bit more, and then we'll see how the wind's blowing.
And he has continued to show the ability to rebound
Yeah.
in practicing,
Yeah.
even though he's 6'5".
Yeah, he's got a great instinct. That wingspan. He's a nose for the ball guy, and then you combine it with the wingspan. He just rebounds the ball at a level that's above his size and continues to do that. I think where we needed to help him was simplify what he needed to do offensively. And for him, play a little bit more like Zach and Torres. Don't play as much, don't worry as much about facing and shooting jump shots. Be a ball screen roll guy and post up because he can score in the post over size. He's crafty and he's got length. So that's a thing that's been on my mind. He's another scoring guy around the low post, and then he gets deflections. He gets his hand on the ball. He's got a nose for the ball. But I almost feel guilty I haven't got him in there because his attitude's so good. His frame of mind has been so good. You feel like, God, you want to get him a chance. Yeah, you want to reward him. And so it's very much on the forefront of my mind.
Confidence building. What would a win against the number 3 team at this point? I know the team is confident. What would this do for the team?
I think it'd be another huge step forward, for us. The one thing about this group, and I really put it on Pat and Jaron's leadership, we haven't been all that giddy, after wins, and like the other night in Chapel Hill, it was a neat celebration, but when I talked about it and started turning it toward Virginia, the body language is like next objective, and so that's what I've been thrilled about. And if you're fortunate enough to get it, I think you'll enjoy it till Sunday afternoon, and then we go on the road in league play again. And you look at the scores last night. This league is it's hard to win league games, no matter where you're ranked in the country. You've heard me say throughout with this group, we keep getting into new territory. First time you went in Chapel Hill. They've handled all that really good. They've just gotten on to the next challenge, and I give Pat and Jaron a lot of credit for that. And again, if we could get it, we're going to have to move on fast and head to Atlanta.
Because of Pat and Jaron, and I guess this team at different times, 75, 80 points probably isn't, that's what you're used to. 75, 80 isn't the target to win this game. Is that just something you have to mention, or do you just have veterans that know can win any game?
I think I've encompassed it in my phrase of we are now playing hard games. Everything is hard. And we just had two, and one of the phrases I said before we got out on the floor in Chapel, embrace hard games. Let's embrace hard games. Everything's hard. And I probably will mention the next couple of days, we may not score 80, fellas, but anyway, we can, get there. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be a grind. Are we mentally and physically tough enough to get this one?
Just the free throws, obviously at the end of the first overtime against Georgia Tech and then at the end against UNC, is that something that's concerned you and that you're working on in practice?
Not really. I think one of the things, I think it would be almost putting a little too much light on it right now, especially with the guys who missed them. When you go 15 for 15, I'm a firm believer in the law of averages, if something happens. But I think when we've had those here in my program, I think 95% of the time we haven't said, everybody shoot 25 more free throws. Now, they're probably doing that on their own a little bit, and that's fine. But for me to put another light on it, no, because our guys are, they're hard on themselves. So I don't want them, hanging their heads on stuff. And again, Pat Connaughton and Steve Estoria on the line with. I hope we're in that position again. I'll take that right now, and I think the results probably would be different than we've had the last two games.
You've talked about the togetherness of this group as well, and you mentioned the guys went to Pat Connaughton's last night, rewatched the UVA game from last year. Is that something you see with this group, kind of that togetherness and then them focusing?
Yeah, this has been, and again, I go back to what we got to do in Italy. You know, we were able to build team in July and August. And, you know, they're traveling on a bus. You know, we were, for 15 days, we're on a bus. You know, basketball was good, but the camaraderie of the foreign tour was really helpful, too, in the summer to kind of help us be together Labor Day, not maybe November 15th or December 15th. So, and you know, when you know, Pat and Jaron, you know, it's kind of clear cut. Those guys coming back as seniors is their team. And but it's been interesting, as I've said, to watch Demetrius Jackson become more of a leader and a voice, and that being accepted by Pat and Jaron. Like, yeah, go ahead, say that. We need that. We need you to do that.
Like, what has been the biggest difference defensive? Your team historically have not been known for the, you know, even known for outscoring teams, but this team's come up with defensive stops. What has been the key for this season?
Well, I think you've heard me say the ball pressure of Demetrius. You know, it starts with the point and what you're doing out there, and I say it's an amazingly unselfish and exhausting act to pressure the ball for 34-5 minutes a game. And he does it willingly, and he knows how important it is. What it's done is it's made offenses start out a little further. It's given us an opportunity to contest some passing lanes with our other guys. And what it's done, it's helped us absorb offensive rebounds because we can get some turnovers and we don't have to deal with, you know, as many second shots or blockout situations. We get our hands on stuff and we get out and we're able to get some easy baskets out of it. So I think it starts with Demetrius, and it's a collective effort. Now, Tom, when we came back after the season last year, you've heard me say we've had 6 guys. You know, Connaughton's pitching, Grant's still in Bowie, Maryland. We were 3-on-3 defensive stuff. We were 3-on-3 defend the ball screen every week. You know, you only have 2 hours a week. Every session we did that until exam week where you couldn't do it anymore. That's all we did. That's all we did. You know, we laugh about it now. I mean, I'll use it as a joke. I said, you know, fellas, it's all we did. The message was made clear. But when we started doing it and Demetrius Jackson was, you know, on the three white shirts playing defense, was like, oh, this is different with him guarding the ball. So I like what this looks like right now. We haven't had this. So I give a lot of credit to him.
Has it been difficult with the 3 primary forwards off the bench, Gavin, Brey, and Torres, to, I guess, increase their consistency? Because it seems like some games one will be hot, another game another will be hot.
You know, I think what you do is you see which guy's going good and you ride them. You know, VJ was rolling pretty good, and so he got a bigger bite of the apple. Burgett has had games where he's been the guy. You kind of ride him. Torres, we've rode Torres to a win against Michigan State, and sometimes he's been the guy. Martin Gevin against Georgia Tech, the minutes weren't long, but he comes off the bench. He gets a charge right away. So, you know, the one thing I've talked to those guys about is, you know, one of the phrases I said with this group, keep doing your job. Don't experiment. Do your job. And, you know, those guys know the windows are small, but we need you to do your job. Now, when you have Connaughton and Grant and Jackson reinforcing that, from what I'm saying, that's extremely powerful. And those guys understand it and know it's worked and they're in. So, you know, you're kind of going game to game, week to week, half to half. Who we come back with? You know, BJ, man, I felt great about him. You know, you saw me getting him in on offensive possessions. Steve's such a good defender. We had him guarding Page and face guarding Page, so I didn't want to take him out. But anytime I was trying to get BJ back in there on offense because I just felt every shot he shot was going in. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike.